Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank all the witnesses who are here today. I do want to sort of focus a little bit more on some of the provisions in the Microloan Program Enhancement Act of 2019. Ms. Bilonik, as you know, several micro lenders have seen an uptick in need for microloans in particular, including intermediaries in Illinois. Senate Democrats have released proposed changes to the microloan program, many of which are included in the Microloan Program Enhancement Act. That bill would give intermediaries additional funding for technical assistance and lending. It would increase the aggregate and annual lending cap and would repeal the 155th rule that restricts lending in the first half of the year. Can you discuss how these changes, Ms. Bilonik, would help intermediaries such as yours get dollars into the hands of borrowers more efficiently and give you the increased resources you need to save micro borrowers, particularly at a time where there is increased demand, such as we're in right now?
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator Duckworth. So I think these changes would be extremely helpful. One thing of note, I do appreciate sort of the parallel with technical assistance as well, which we find to be useful with regard to getting our businesses in the queue and funded. While I said that our PPP average loan amount was $30,000, our traditional, even though we do go all the way up to $250,000 as a community advantage lender, is more in the $13,000 to $17,000 space. And so the microloan program is extremely helpful for us. It's the most reasonable debt that we have to be able to turn back over to our clients versus debt that we take from either foundations or commercial sources. And so it would hugely expand our capacity to lend, to be able to have more lending dollars from the SBA microloan program. I would also just say with regard to that, the 155th rule, we are in support of striking that. It sort of creates a false bottleneck that doesn't need to be there with regard to distributing money equitably during the whole course of the fiscal year rather than splitting it up with the first half and second half. And so we would certainly view that as a positive for our lending ability.
Thank you. And I want to touch also on the need for the SBA to dedicate resources towards minority-owned business owners, minority business owners. We've already touched on that on this so far, my colleagues from Maryland and Hawaii. But I want to come back to this. We know that small businesses, borrowers of color, had a harder time receiving adequate capital from traditional lenders prior to COVID-19. And unfortunately, this pandemic has only made this issue worse. Last month, SBA and Treasury created additional set-asides in the Paycheck Protection Program for CDFI lenders to better serve borrowers of color. While this is a step in the right direction, more must be done when it comes to helping these borrowers to have access to lenders and capital. And I'll give you an example. I was just in East St. Louis just last week meeting with small business owners, and one of them was a Black-owned business. And all the others were white-owned businesses. Some of them were women-owned, but they were all white-owned. And they, for the large part, received all the PPP loans to the full amount that they asked for. And yet this Black businessman who had a better balance sheet and a longer track record only got a small percentage of what he applied for. And he couldn't figure out why he would have gotten a smaller percentage. And in this discussion was very interesting because they were comparing, their backgrounds, how much capital they had. They were all in similar businesses, and there was no other reason where he was different from the others. In fact, he had more experience, had better balance sheets, except that he was a Black-owned business. So, Mr. Busby, can you discuss what additional changes Congress must make to PPP and to traditional lending structures to make sure borrowers of colors can access small business loans and capital? You touched on this before, but I want to give you more time to really emphasize this issue because it's very real and I'm seeing it on the ground today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question, because it is a real concern. Access to capital is the number one, number two, number three concern for Black business owners. Discrimination exists, and so we are asking for all barriers for access to capital to be removed for Black-owned businesses. We also know that 70% of Black firms that applied got denied, and 90 of U.S. Black Chamber members and 96% of our members that applied that did get some funding did not get what they requested. So either they didn't get it or if they did get it, they didn't get what they need. And we found that to be historic. That's not just now, that is historic pandemic as it relates to our community in reference to access to capital. Thus, we cannot grow, so we can't hire. And if we can't hire, then we can't continue to have sustainability in our communities. The credit scores need to be twice as high as our white friends. When we go in to ask for a loan, we only get 40% of the funds that we ask for. We have to have twice or somewhat almost twice the credit scores of our white peers. I could own my home. My white peer could own their home. I could go in with a great business plan looking for $100,000. I'll walk out with $40,000 praising the God for allowing me to get that 40,000, only understanding that 90% of businesses fail within the first year. And the majority of the reasons is because they didn't have the access to the capital that they needed when the first emergency happened. The average Black family has less than $400 for an emergency. The average Black business, only 30% of them have any credit at all. And so when we are in situations where things come unexpectedly, it is only going to exacerbate the problems that Black business owners have during pandemics and just regular challenges of business itself.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chair.